Hello guys, welcome to another video. This one is paper 2 of November 2009. This one is a requested video, and let's move on to question number 1. So here we are going to be doing the section A, where we have to answer all the questions in this section. So first one is to solve the equation where we have to find the values of x, p, q, and x, or y. So let's see for the first one, what do we have? We have 2 power y equal to 8. Now, at first, it's kind of hard to know what are we trying to do or find, but from experience, you will realize that what is 8? 8 is simply 2 power 3. So replace, you will see, you will have 2 power y is equal to 2 power 3. Now, because the base are the same, we can just cancel the base, and then y will be 3. That is part A. Now for part B, we have to find the value of p. So let's do step by step. First, let's expand the bracket. So let's continue here. We have 3p plus 4 is 8 minus 2p plus 6. Now send all the p's to one side, so 3 plus 2 will be 5p. 8 plus 6 will be 14 minus 4, that will be 10. So p will be 10 divided by 5, that will be 2. Part B, your answer will be p is 2. Now for part C, we have to find the value of q. Now we have to simplify one by one. Let's first begin from the left hand side. So here we have one fraction minus another fraction. Now for these two fractions, we can see the base are different. So what do? As you guys must have done this many times now, we have to multiply them by each other. So q times q plus 2 for the base. Then we have to cross multiply, so 18 times this will be 18q plus 36. Here we have minus 16 times q, that will be 16q, and then equal to 1. So now we have just to simplify, so we cross multiply and see what do we get. So continue here. So on one side you will have 18q minus 16, that should be 2q, plus 36 equal to, this will be q squared plus 2q. Now we have to rearrange, so q squared, we have to send this over here, so 2q minus 2q, that will be 0, then minus 36, that will be 0. So we can just factorize now, so q, that will be 6, that will be what? Plus and minus, equal to 0. So q will be minus 6, and q will be 6. I guess this may be confusing for you guys right now, so let me just re-explain this right here. So what is 36? You guys must know it is 6 squared. Now we know that a squared minus b squared is what? It is the difference of squares. We have to know it is a plus b and then a minus b. So right now we have q squared minus 6 squared. So we just have to replace in this equation. So you will have q plus 6, q minus 6, and then equal to 0 will be right here. Then you can solve, you'll have these two as your answers for part C. Now for part D, we have to solve this one, which means find the values of x. Give each solution correct to 2 decimal place. Now, so whenever you see they are asking you for a solution correct to decimal places, it means that the answer will not be exact, and because of that we have to use the formula, right? So let me write this down here on top. So part D, that will be 5x squared plus x minus 7 is 0. This is A, so B will be here, and this is C. So x will be minus b plus minus root of b squared minus 4 times a and times c, divided by 2 times a. Let's replace the values and see what do we have. So 1 minus 4 times 5 times minus 7. Root of that will be this value. So for the first value, I can have minus 1. So this will become 11.87. So first value will be minus 1 plus 11.87 divided by 10. That will be 1.09, correct to 2 decimal place. Now the other value could be minus 1 minus 11.87 divided by 10. That will be minus 1.29. So these will be the two values of x for part D. Let's double check. So minus 1 plus 11.87 divided by 10. Okay, so that is fine. That will be your question number 1. Now let's move on to question number 2. Okay, so here the first thing we can see is we have A, B, C, D. Okay, as you can see, is a rectangle. A, B, C, D. So what does that mean? It means that these two sides have to be the same. So AD and BC are the same, right? And then DC and AB have to be the same for it to be a rectangle. Now what else do we know? We know that this is 90. This must be 90, 90, and 90 for a rectangle. Okay, so now we can proceed for the rest of the question. So now we have points P, Q, R, and S lie on AB, BC, CD, and DA respectively, as you can see on the diagram, such that AP is CR, so AP is CR, and then we have QC is SA, so QC is SA. Okay, so it is given to you on the diagram. Now part 1, giving reasons, we have to show that PB is equal to RD. Okay, so we have to show this is true. That's the first thing we need to do. So first, let's see where is PB. PB is this one. Okay, and then RD will be this one. So we have to show this is equal to this one. So how would you find that? We have to use our knowledge of rectangles, right? So as we have said before, that because it is a rectangle, we know that AB has to equal to DC. Let that be x, for example. So basically, we are saying that this length here and this length here, let them be x because they are the same. If this is x, this also will be x because they are the same length, because they are rectangles. Okay, now because they are x, I can do for this one first. So for reason number 1, because I know that RC is equal to, so let's let RC, for example, because it is hard to work with RC, A, B, B, C, let's choose a value for RC. So I would say let RC be y, for example, right? Now we know RC is y. Okay, now because we know that RC, or what is it? So RC is CR, we know RC is the same as AP. So which means AP is also y. So where's that? Right here, right? Now, as you can see, it is pretty obvious. If this is x, this is y, this means this will be what? This length will be x minus y, right? Same thing. If this is x, this is y, this will be also x minus y. So from this, we have concluded that the length of PB will be x minus y, and so is the length of RD. So we have proven here it is true. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Again, if you don't understand, no big deal. Proceed step by step. You will see the steps here, and then you can conclude they are the same. So now we can just write this down. This is the same as this. Okay. Now for part 2, we have to show the triangle PBQ is congruent to triangle RDS. So let's first locate those two triangles. So where's triangle PBQ? So PBQ is this one, okay? And then we have triangle RBS. So RDS. So same logic again. So we have to, there's many ways of proving how a triangle is congruent. So one of the ways here we can easily see is again by using the knowledge of rectangles. So as we have seen, BC has to equal to AD because they are rectangles, right? Now, if you let BC equal to Z, this will mean that AD also have to be Z. For example, now AS, we can let that be S. Oh, we have S already, let's choose something else. Let this be M, for example. So since we're given that AS, which is SA, is the same as QC, it means that QC here will also be M. So by having those measurements, we can conclude that BQ, let me just do this here, BQ has to be the same as SD by the same logic, because SD is Z minus M and BQ is also Z minus M. So right now we have to compare those two triangles. As you can see, let me draw this here. What do we have right now? So right now we have a triangle like this. This is D, R, and S. And then we have a triangle like this. This is B, Q, and P. Now we know this is 90. This is also 90. And we have just shown that this is the same as this. And then we also know that this is the same as this from the part 1. Right. Now if you observe these two triangles, we can prove that they are congruent by which method? So by SAS. It means the side, angle side, by showing that we have shown that these two triangles are the same, are congruent. So what does that mean? S is a side, so the side here, and the corresponding side here are the same, right? So this and this is the same, and the angle here in between, you see, in between, and in between are the same, 90, and the side to this side is also the same. So by SAS, we have proven that triangle PBQ and triangle RDS are congruent. Okay. So there's many ways to show they are congruent. So you can also say by SSS, by all the three sides are the same, because if you observe, because these two sides are the same, right, and you have this right angle in between them, we can find this side by using the Pythagoras theorem. So because these two sides, so this will also have to be the same. So finally, also by SSS, these two has to be congruent. But you can choose either method, it will be just fine. Now for part 3, we have to prove the angle RPQ is equal to PRS. So let's see, where are those two angles? So we have RPQ, so R is here, so we have to show this angle is the same as PRS, same as this one. Okay, so how can we show this? So for example, we know that because it is a rectangle again, we know that these two sides, AB and DC, must be parallel. So if you draw this diagram, we know that AB and DC, so DC and so AB and DC must be parallel because they are a rectangle. They must be of the same length and the same direction. Right. Now, Since the point P is here, it is joined to the other line to a point R, so R is here, this is point P, right? And then, because of that, we can conclude that this angle, this big one, has to be the same as this big one. So, let me go back to the diagram. Because these two are parallel, we can conclude that this angle here has to be the same as this one. Okay, so but the trick is, but now we know something. We know that triangle PBQ is congruent to triangle RDS. So which means this triangle is the same as this triangle. It means that this angle here have to be the same as this angle here. That makes sense. Now, to find this angle, we take this big one minus the small one. It will have to be the same. So for example, I can just give them some names. Let me call this one angle theta, the big one. So first I know the big one have to be the same because parallel lines, they are joined by a line, so these two angles have to be the same. That's the first step. Now, I can give this small one a name. I can call this alpha. So this will also be alpha because it is the same two congruent triangles on both sides, so these two have to be the same. So if you know the big angle, you know the small angle, what will be the size of this angle? You would say, I will take the big angle, which is theta, as given here, minus the small one, which is alpha. And what is this one as well? Same steps. The big one will be theta, minus small one will be alpha. As you can see, these two are clearly the same. So we have shown that they are the same. So you, of course, you will do the same thing, give them names and do step by step to show how you got these angles. So now, part B, state the special name given to the quad PQRS. So PQRS. So let's join them together first. So let's join these two. Okay. Okay, so now what do we know? Because these two angles are the same, we know that these two have to be parallel. Right. But now also, because we know these two are the congruent triangles, these two lengths have to be the same. If that makes sense, right? So we know these two are parallel lines, but also the length are the same. Okay, that's a good thing to know. Now, what else do we know? We know that because of that, okay, so let me just show you this as well. As you can see here, we have QCR, it is a right angle triangle. We know this side is the same as this side, and this side is the same as this side, which means the third side would also be the same as this third side. So because of that, since they are the same length as well, they also will be in the same direction. So what is that shape? Let me take this out. So right now we have a shape which is like this, where these two are parallel and these two are parallel. So it is very clear this has to be a parallelogram. So that will be your question number 2. Now let's move on to question number 3. A small submarine dived in a straight line from a point A on the surface to examine an object at the point W on the seabed. As you can see, A is on the surface, and here we have a sub dived in the straight line until W. It is given to you on the diagram. Now, it dived at an angle of 15 degrees to the horizontal, as you can see here, and reached W after traveling 50 meters. Distance is 50 meters AW. Now, question part 1. We have to find the depth D meters of the seabed at W. So we have to find this length. So it is pretty easy. As you can see, it is a right angle triangle from the drawing, so we can use SOHCAHTOA to find the answer. So SOHCAHTOA. So we want to find this side. This is our opposite side. So O and O. And we are given this side. This is the hypotenuse. So as you can see, we have to use sine. So sine of the angle will be opposite side over hypotenuse. So which means D has to be 50 sine 15. So let's find that. So make sure you're using degrees here for your calculation. So that will be 12.9409. But of course, for non-exact values, you will give your answer correct to 3SF. That will be meters. So 12.9 meters for the value of D. Now for point B, a marker is at the point M on the surface, okay? When at B, the submarine was 10 meters vertically below M, as seen on the diagram. We have to find the value of AB. Again, we can just use SOHCAHTOA. If you observe, we have a right angle triangle. If this is 90, it is vertically below. This means this also will be 90. So how do you find this side? Again, let's see by using SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so we want to find AB. AB is the hypotenuse, so H, and we know this side, this is your opposite side, which is O and O. So we have two mark here, we have to use sine. So sine of 15 has to be what? To be the same thing, opposite side, 10 over AB. So let's find that value. AB has to be 10 divided by sine 15. That will be 38.6, correct to 3SF. So the distance AB will be 38.6. That will be part B of the question. Now let's move on to part C. Now, when at sea, the submarine was at its nearest point to M. Now, why they say nearest point to M? So what does this mean? So whenever you have smallest distance, nearest point, perpendicular distance, it means the same thing. It means that the distance from M to C is a straight line meeting the line AW at right angle. So it means that MC has to be at 90 degrees to this line. So whenever you see nearest point, shortest distance, this is what it means. Okay, that is your first instinct. Now first step is to find the angle BMC. So how can you find this angle? So if you observe, we have two triangles. One triangle is MCA. If this is 90, this is 15. What is this one? This will be 180 minus 90 minus 50. That will be 75. Okay, but now again, because this is the surface of the water, it is a horizontal line. This is 90. This will also be 90. So this is 75. This will have to be 15. So the angle BMC has to be 15 degrees. Okay, so that is one way of doing the question. Obviously, there's many ways. There's a more direct way. It is very obvious, but that is one way you can easily understand how to find that value. Now for part 2, calculate CM. So where's CM? CM will be the height. Now how can you find the height? Let's see, what do we know? What can we use to find that height? So right now we have what? We have this line. This is the MC. We have this, and we have this. This is 90, as you can see here, because it is the perpendicular length. And this is 15. We know this is 10. So we have a what? We have a right angle triangle again. So we can use SOHCAHTOA again. So let's do that. So SOHCAHTOA. So this is my hypotenuse because it is opposite the right angle. It is called the hypotenuse. And we want to find this one. This one is my A side, adjacent side. So whenever you have a side in between the angle and 90, it's called the A side, the adjacent side. So that will be cos. So we have to use cos of 15 is equal to the A side, which is the SCM, the length, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 10. So finally, CM has to be 10 cos 15. 10 cos 15. That will be 9.67. So 9.6, actually 6, not 7, 66. 66 meters, correct to 3SF for the value of CM. And that is your question number 3. Now let's move on to question number 4. So part A, we have the universal set, numbers from 1 till 15. L is an odd number. So the first thing we can do is we can list all the elements of L. So let's write this down. It will be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. That will be all the odd numbers in the set. Now M is a multiple of 3. Multiple of 3 are what? It is 1 times 3, 2 times 3, 3 times 3. So 1 times 3 will be 3, 6, then 9, 12, and 15. That will be the set of M. Now part 1, write down the set ML intersecting M. So let's see which one they have in common. They have 3, they have 9, and they have 15. So that will be the set. Now we have to find L prime intersecting M. So we can first find out what is a set of L prime. So let's do that. L prime will be the values outside, or the elements outside of L. So here we have 1, we don't have 2, that will be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So that will be the set of L prime. Now L prime intersecting M, let's see what these two have in common. As you can see, we have 6 and 12 are common, so that will be the set 6 and 12 for this one. Now for part 2, a number n is chosen at random from the universal set. So now we choose a number that we don't know from this big set. Now we have to find the chance that the set belongs in L union M. Now, what is the number of elements in L union M? So first let's find this set. So L union M will be what set? Let's find out. So it will be L and M, so that will be 1. So basically it will be all the elements in those two sets without repetition. So we have 1, we have 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 15. That will be the set L union M. Now let's find the elements. Number of elements in that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10. So which means the chance of us choosing a number from this set will be 10, because we have 10 numbers in that set, over the universal set has 15 elements. So your answer will be 2 over 3. That will be the chance of choosing a number from this set. That is part A. Now for part B, let's see what do we have. We have a survey, a number of people who ask, do you own a car or do you own a bicycle? The Venn diagram shows the set C of the car owners and the set B of bicycle owners. So C and B, okay? Now the letters P, Q, and X are the numbers of people in each subset. Okay, so basically they have drawn the Venn diagram for you. Also, we're given that 11 people own neither a car or bicycle, so he will be outside of this two set. Okay, so basically we just have to use this Venn diagram to solve the remaining questions. So a total of 66 people own the car. So basically the set for the car has to be 66. So which means P plus Q had to give you 66. That's the first thing we can derive from this. Now, 4 times as many people own a car only as owned a bicycle only. So we have to understand from this that. So now first thing, what is car only? It is the set which is P. Now what is bicycle only? It is only X. So from this we understand that the number of people owning a car only is 4 times a bicycle. So we have this second equation from that line. Now part 1, we have to write down expressions in terms of X. For first one is P. So P, as you can see, is 4X. Now what is Q? So if you observe, Q is equal to 66 minus P, which is 66 minus 4X. That will be Q. Now part 2, a total of 27 people own the bicycle. As you can see here, bicycle is set B, which is Q plus X, so we can write down Q plus X had to be 27. So we have to find the value of X. So now we have a few equations that we can use. We can use this one, Q here, and we have Q here, we can solve this. So if we make Q become subject, we have this, so we place this in this, you'll have 66 minus 4X plus X, that will be 27. That will be minus 3X equal to 27 minus 66, that will be minus 39, and finally X have to be 13. X will be 13. Now for part B, the total number of people who were in the survey. Okay, so basically everyone in the set. So the total number of people will be P plus Q plus X and plus 11. As we have seen, P is equal to 4X, so 4 times 13. Q is equal to 66 minus 4X. And then we have to plus X again, and then plus 11. Let's see how many people do we have. 13 plus 66 minus 4 times 13 plus 13 plus 11. That will be 90. This will cancel out. Yep, 90 people. So together we have 90 people who were in the survey. And that will be your question number 4. Now let's move on to question number 5, part A. Evaluate this matrix subtraction. So let's do this step by step. So first thing, we have to multiply by 3 for the values inside. You will have 6, 12, and 0 minus 2, 12, and minus 6. Now let's do 6 minus 2 is 4, 12 minus 12 is 0, and that will be 6. So this one is pretty easy, right? And this one we have to do matrix multiplication. As we guys must know by now, we have to do row multiplied by column. Okay, so one by one. 1 times 0 is 0, plus of course 3 times 3, that will be 9, plus 4 times 5, that should be 20. Okay, and then for this one now, because this is done, we have to do this one. 1 times 4 is equal to 4, plus 3 and plus 0. So that will give you 29 and 7 as your answer. That is part 2. Now let's move on to part B of the question. So we have the matrix A, we have to find A inverse. Now to find A inverse, we must first find the determinant of A, right? So how would you find that? It is, take first cross multiply 2 times 1 minus 0 times minus 3. So that will be 2, right? And then we have to find the adjoint matrix of A, which is, change the position of those two. So we send 1 here and 2 here. And then we have to change the sign of those two. This will be 0 and this will become 3. So finally we conclude that A inverse have to be 1 over determinant times the adjoint matrix. Okay, so that will be your answer for part 1. Now for part 2, the transformation represented by the matrix A, which is A here, maps this point onto this point. Now we have to find the value of H and K. Now, the way we have to think about this is, let's call this point X, for example. So basically we have a point X, we apply A onto X, we get the point. Let's call this, for now, let's call this Y. We get Y. Now how would you find the value of X? That's the idea. So to find the value of X, we must first eliminate this value of A. So to eliminate that, we have to apply A inverse on both sides. Right? So now this will cancel out, and you'll have X is equal to A inverse times Y. That's the idea. Now, again, same thing here. Let's just replace the values. So let me continue this here. So basically, the point X is equal to A inverse 1 over 2, 1, 0, 3, 2, times the point here, which is Y, 10, 2. Now, let's solve this one. So again, rows by column. So 1 times 10 plus 3 times 2. Now on behalf of outside, we have 16 here. And then now, rows by column. 0 times 10 plus 2 times 2, that should be 4. So your answer will be 8, 2. So now by comparing, H will be 8, K will be 2. So H, 8, and K will be 2 as your answer. Okay, so now let's move on to question number 6. So now we have 100 grams of spaghetti contains 3.6 grams of fiber. Express the mass of fiber, okay, and the mass of spaghetti as a ratio of 2 integers, which is whole numbers, in its simplest form. So pretty easy. Let's first write this down. So the mass of fiber is 3.6 to 100. Now to express them as integers, what I like to do is, I like to first take, so other way to think about ratios is fractions. So another way to think about ratios is fraction. We can rewrite this as 3.6 over 100. So I like to take the small number, put this on top, and the larger number put at the bottom. So let's do that. 3.6 divided by 100. You will have this. Now you can just press that for fraction. So it will become 9 over 250. So basically the ratio can also be written as 9 to 250 as whole numbers. So this will be your answer for part 1, 9 to 250. Now for part B, a tin contains 2 10 grams of beans, okay? And now part 1, 100 grams of beans contain 4.5 of protein. Calculate the mass of protein in the tin. So pretty easy. We know that 100 grams is 4.5. But now in the tin we have 2 10 grams, so that will be 4.5 divided by 100 times 210. So 4.5 divided by 100 times 210, that should be 9.45. So that will be your answer for part 1 here. Now for part 2, the 100 grams of beans contain 0.3 grams of fat. Now part 1, what percentage of the fat of the beans is fat? So pretty easy. Take the fat amount over the beans times 100. That will be 0.3%, as you can see. That is part A. Now part B, the recommended daily amount of fat is 70 grams. Okay. Calculate what percentage of the recommended daily amount is in the tin. Okay, so let's find out. Now, let's first find out how much fat there is in the tin. We know that 100 grams of beans has 0.3 grams of fat. That's what we have been given here. Now we know that in the tin we have 10 grams of beans, which means that will have to be 0.3 divided by 100 because of this, right? And then multiply by 210 for the mass of fat in the tin. Now, this is fat in the tin. Now, the percentage will be the amount of fat we have in the tin over the recommended amount, which is 70 times 100. So 0.63 divided by 70 times 100. That will be 0.9% as your answer. Now for part 3, the mass of salt in 100 grams of beans is 1 gram. Okay, correct to 1 decimal place. Okay, now let's see, calculate an upper bound for the mass of salt contained in the tin. Okay, now one by one, let's first write down what is the upper and lower bound for the mass of salt. As you can see, the mass of salt, it is measured correct to 1 decimal place. So we can write this down first. So what is 1 decimal place? Let me find some space. So let me do this here. So usually we call the number, for example here, this will be 1 decimal place, right? Now let's write this down again, so we have some more space. So in 100 grams of beans, we have 1.0 grams of salt. That's what we are given in the question. It is measured correct to 1 decimal place. Okay? That is the line that we have been given. Now, we have to find the upper bound of the mass contained in the tin. Okay, so now, in the tin, what do we have? In the tin, we have 10 grams of beans. Okay, so that's for the tin. So we have to find the upper bound value for the mass of salt in the tin. But first, let's just do one by one. Let's find the upper bound value for the mass of salt in this much gram. So pretty easy. You will take the value measured, 1 gram, plus minus the 1 decimal place over 2. That will be to find the lower and upper bound. So 1. So that will be 1 plus 0.1 divided by 2. That will be, 1 plus 0.1 divided by 2. That will be 1.05 for the upper bound. And 1 minus 0.1 divided by 2. That will be 0.95 for the lower bound. So now, if you take the upper bound value, will be this one. So now we can say that in 100 grams, we know that it has 1.05 grams of salt for the upper bound value. Now, for 210, let's do that. 210 will be will be this value, 105 divided by 100 times 210. That will be 2.205 grams. Now, because it is an exact answer, you will not write this down to 3SF. We will just write the exact answer for this one. Now, that will be part 3 of the question. So let me write this down. Part 3, we have got 2.205 grams of salt for the upper bound value. Now, for part C, a tin of soup contains 1/6 calories. Now this is 8.3% of the recommended daily number of calories. Calculate the recommended daily calories. So pretty easy. We know that 8.3% is given by 166 calories. Now to find the recommended calorie, as you guys know, we always call the initial or the original amount should be 100%. So we have to find that 166 divided by 8.3 times 100. Because this one is only 8.3 of the recommended amount, so which means that the amount that we recommend will be the whole value, which is 100%, right? That'll be 166 divided by 8.3 times 100. That'll be 2,000 calories as your answer. That will be question number 6. Now let's move on to section B of this paper. So usually you will only have to answer 4 questions in this section, but obviously I will be doing all the questions. Let's first begin with question number 7. Part A. A fuel tank is a cylinder of diameter 1.8. So now when you have the diameter, which is 1.8, we can deduce that the radius has to be 0.9. So I like to write those things down if in case I need it down later on for more information. But let me just write this down for now. Now part 1. The tank holds 25,000 liters when full. Okay, so that's something that we are given. Given that 1 meters cube is equal to 1,000 liters. Okay, so calculate the length of the cylinder, give your answer in meters. Okay, so let's find that out. So first thing we can do is we can first draw the cylinder. For example, cylinder will be in a shape like this, usually, right? Now we know that the radius is 0.9 as we have derived here. Now the length, basically they are trying to say the height, because in this case the cylinder was laid on the ground like this. It will be horizontal, that's why they call it the length. But basically we are trying to find the height. I mean the length or the height is the same thing here. Now we know that we have 25,000 liters it can hold into this whole tank. Now we're given that 1,000 liters is equal to 1 meters cube. So what is 25,000 liters? So pretty easy, that should be 25 meters cube, right? So 1,000 is 1, 25,000 should be 25. So this is the volume of the cylinder in terms of meters cube. Okay, so we have to find the length. Now first thing is, how do you find volume of a cylinder? Volume is given by a formula pi r square h for the height or the length. Now pi is pi, r square is 0.9 square, and height or length we don't know, but we know that the volume is 25. So we have to solve for this value of L. L will be 25 divided by 0.9 square times pi. That should be 9.82, correct to 3SF. Give your answers in terms of meters, so the length or the height will be 9.82 meters. That will be part A of the question. Now part 2. The diagram shows a cross-section of the cylinder, okay, of center O, okay, given containing some fuel. As you can see here, this region will be the fuel in the container. Now CD is a horizontal line or level, and it is the level of fuel in the cylinder. So basically the region that we have here, it is the level amount of fuel, and this is the level of fuel in the cylinder. Now we have AB, it is a vertical diameter and intersects C, D at E. Okay, so because this is horizontal and this is vertical, it means that this will have to be 90 degrees. Okay, that's something we can derive from that information. Now given E is the midpoint of OB, okay, this is the midpoint of OB. Now, I can ask you, what is OB? Right, so the first thing we can see to ask is, what is OB actually? OB is equal to OA, which is the radius of this cylinder. So we know that OB is equal to radius, which is 0.9, So since E is the midpoint, I can say OE has to be half, which is 0.45 meters. So we can derive this from that information. Now part 1, we have to show that angle EOD is 60 degrees. Okay, so EOD. So we have to find this angle. So one thing we can do here, let me take out the triangle and see what can we do. So we will have something to use. So we have a triangle here that will be 90. This is E, this is O, and this is D. We want to find this angle. We know this is 0.9, this is 0.45. Okay, so again, we have a right angle triangle. We want to find this angle. Let's call this theta. We have to use SOHCAHTOA. So again, SOHCAHTOA. Let's see, what do we use? So because we know this side is called the A side or the adjacent side. It is between the two angles, so A side and A side. And then we know this side, it is opposite the right angle, is called the hypotenuse. We have to use cos. So cos of the angle is equal to the A side over the adjacent side. So theta will be cos inverse of half, which is 60 degrees. So here we go, we have shown that it is 60 degrees. That's the first one. Now part B, we have to calculate the area of the segment BCD. Okay, so we have to find this area of that region. So how can you find this area? So let's think. We can actually break this down into two parts. So basically, let's not look at this part of the circle. Let's look at only this side of the circle, because this side and this side are the same. We can first find the one side and then multiply by 2 to find the other side. So basically right now we are looking at, let me draw this, we're looking at this side. We're looking at this side only, right? This is 90 as we have seen. We want to find this first. Okay, so this is 60 degrees as we have seen, 0, 0.9, this is 0.45. And how can you find this area? How can you find this? As you can see, we can first find the area of this is B and D. We can first find the area of the whole sector. So area of sector let's call it OBD, can be found by using your formula, which is the angle over 360 times pi r square, which is 0.9 square. Okay, so that will be 60 divided by 360 times 0.9 square, 10 times pi. That will be 0.424115. Now, to get the area of that region only, we have to minus the area of the triangle. Now, how do you find it in a triangle? Let me use a different color here. So there's many ways indeed we can find the height, or we can find the base, but we can just use the formula that we know already, which is triangle will be half times the two side, which is 0.45, and then 0.9, so multiply of course, and then multiply by sine of the angle in between. So you'll find the area of the triangle. Half times 0.45 times 0.9 times sine of 60. So we have to use degrees, make sure you have degrees. And here I can see the area given to me is 0.17537. Okay, so from that we can derive, so we have to find this area only. So we take the whole area minus area of triangle to find this. So let me write this down. For this side only, it is 0.424115 minus answer. That will be 0.24874. But now, of course, to find the whole area here, take this, multiply by 2, because these two are the same thing. So This will be times 2, 0.497. That will be part B of the question. Now part C, we have to calculate the number of liters of fuel in the cylinder. Now, how do you find the volume of this fuel? As you guys must know by now, to find the volume, we use the formula, which is area of cross-section times the length. Now, as you have seen, we have found the area of cross-section already, which is this, right, of the fuel, which is 0.497 times the length of the cylinder we have found in part 1, which is 9.82. Okay, so that times 9.82, that will be 4.885, for example. 4.885 for now. That is number of meters cubed. Now you want to find the number of liters, so you have to convert this back to liters. So using your information here, 1 meter cube is 1000. So 4.885, you have to multiply by 1000, so that will give you 4.8, so we have to move 3 zeros, 8.5 liters. So now correct to 3SF, that should be how much? Let me write this here. That will be 4.890 liters. That will be my answer for part C of the question. Now let's move on to part B of the question. Now we have a volume of a sphere is given by 4/3 pi r cubed. Now we have a different tank consists of a cylinder of diameter 1.5, which means again the radius have to be 0.75. So let's check. 1.5 divided by 2, so 0.75. So this is what we can derive from diameter, right? Now, also we have a hemisphere of diameter 1.5 on the other end. So this is the hemisphere. Now, we're given the volume of a sphere. Hemisphere is half a sphere. So what is the volume of a hemisphere? It will be this divided by 2. That will be 2/3 pi r cubed. That's something we have derived for the hemisphere part. Now let's move on. The volume of the cylinder is 10 times the volume of the hemisphere. Find the length of the cylinder. So let's use that information. So first is volume of the cylinder is 10 times volume of the hemisphere. So let's write down the equation. How do you find volume of cylinder? We have pi r square h, or is the height or the length, same thing, and 10 times volume of hemisphere. As you can see, it is 2/3 pi r cubed. Now we have to simplify and see what happens. So pi cancel out, r square cancel out, becomes r, and h has to be 10 times 2/3 times r is 0.75. 10 times 2/3 times 0.75. That will be 5. So the height or the length is 5 meters as your answer. And that will be your question number 7. Let's move on to question number 8. So answer the whole of this question on a sheet of graph paper. So we have to answer on a graph paper. So usually back in this is an old paper, you used to be given graph paper to do your questions. Now part A, the variables x and y are connected by this equation. Okay, so you have been given an equation by which we have x connected with y. Okay, no big deal. Now the table of values shows the values of x and the corresponding values of y. Okay, now part 1, calculate the value of p. So pretty easy. P is the value of y when x equal to 3.5. So just plug in the value of x in this equation to find the value of p. So we have what? We have 3.5 cube minus 18, 3.5 square plus 20 times 3.5. That should be 21. So this is 21 for the value of p. So that will be first one. Done. Now for part 2, using a scale of 2 centimeters to represent 1 unit, draw a horizontal x-axis between 0 and 4. Okay, pretty easy. So here we have to use 2 centimeters for 1 unit. Okay. And then now we have to use a scale of 1 centimeters for 2 units on the vertical axis from -4 till 24. Okay, so this is the information that we have to draw this diagram. So let's do that one by one. So let me, okay, so I don't have my ruler here. I will try my best to draw this. Let's see what happens. Okay, so first thing, let's draw the horizontal axis from 0 to 4. Okay, so this is my graph paper, so we have to kind of measure approximately where this can be. So I know that y has to be -4, so we can count from -4 first, so here. So that will be, so we know 10 squares will be 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Usually your graph paper will be better than this one is kind of bad, but as you can see we have to measure the since 1 centimeter has to be 2 units on the vertical axis. So this is 2 units, this is 2, so this is 4. I will assume this will be -4, but let me start my thing here. I can start here for my horizontal axis. Okay, so let me first draw the line before I label my axis. Okay, so as you can see, it's pretty hard to draw with this ruler. So this is my x-axis. Okay, now it tells me that my x-axis has to be 2 centimeters to represent 1 unit on the x-axis. So let me first make the marks that I need. So I have to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So feel free to skip because I have to draw this. It's gonna take some time. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4. Okay, almost done. So why do I choose 5? So 5 is actually 5 square represents 1 centimeter, and we need 1 centimeters on the graph to be able to draw my points on the axis. That's why I choose. I'm counting 5 squares right now. That's the reason why. Okay, send here. So on the x-axis, we need the values from 0 to 4. Okay, so it has to be from 0 to 4. I can start, let me start, I can start here because 0, let me start here for 0, right, 0, here. And now to 4, we need to, it says, using a scale of 2 centimeters, so 1, 2, for 1 unit, that will be 1. So 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here you go. So we just need from 0 to 4 on the x-axis. Now for the y-axis, we need to use a scale of 1 centimeter for 2 units. 1 for 2, but it is from -4 till 24. Let's first draw the vertical axis before we label our line. For example, that will be my vertical axis. Of course, you will have a proper ruler. Don't use this to draw your lines. It's not good. So make sure you have a proper ruler for these kind of questions. And of course, you will be using a pencil, not a pen, okay? So because for drawings, you have to use a pencil. This is why. So I know that I have to be 1 centimeter here will represent 2 units. For example, 1 centimeter, that should be -2, and this will be -4. And this is what we need from -4 till 24. So now I have to count the boxes. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4. So feel free to skip again. It's gonna take some time to finish this drawing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, two, three, four, 5. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I think that should be about the drawing. Let's see how can we label this now. So here we have -2, so it have to be 2. 5 here has to be 4. So it has to be 2 units, so 6. Right, I hope there's enough space because we need to go until the value of 24. So 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. Okay, so that is good enough for my values of y. Now we have to plot the points, so this is pretty easy, one by one. So 0, 0 will be first one here, 0, 0. And then we have 0.56, 0.56 will be this one. Then we have 1, 6, this one, and we have 1.53. That should be between 2 and 4. Then we have 2, 0. Then we have 2.5 will be 0. Then we have 3 will be 6. This value here. And then we have 3.5 will be the value of 21. So this value 21 should be 21. Okay, so now we have to draw this curve. As you can see, so because you have to have some kind of knowledge of curve, because it is a cubic curve, it will have what kind of shape? If you look at those points, you can see that it will have to have a shape, somewhat like this, right? It will have to be somewhat like this, right? Because of a cubic curve has to have 2 stationary points. So let's do this and try our best to join those points. So for example, what I will do here, I will pretend that I have a point somewhere here, so I can join them easily. So make sure you're using a pencil for the curve. It will help you with your drawing. That will be, oh, sorry about that. Hope you can see. So we have, let's put a point here. Okay, and this will be join with this, and this will join with this part. As you can see, we have a cubic curve. I mean, it is okay. It is not the best shaped curve, but the idea here is should be somewhat like this. Smooth curve, somewhat like this. Okay, so it should be in this shape. And of course, you have to label the curve y equal to 4x cubed minus 18x squared plus 20. x. That will be your answer for question part 2. Now for part 3, use your graph, find the values of x when y is equal to and y is equal to 4. So where's the line? Y equal to 4, we have to draw this horizontal line. So let's do that. So as we can see, when y equal to 4, you will cut the curve at 3 points. This is y equal to 4. So the first point will be this one. Then we have this one and this one. So we have to find those 3 values of x that correspond to this point of intersection. So let's see, this point could be what? This is 0.5, this should be 0.25. This could be what? 1. So this is 1.5 here. So that could be 1.35, for example, from what I can see. Now your values may be different, okay? It will be around the same value, but it may be different depending on how you draw your curve. Now this will be 2.5.67885. So my values of x according to my graph will be 0.25, and then I have 1.35, and then 2.85. Okay, so that will be using my graph to find the values of x when y equal to value of 4. That will be part A. Now for part B, a rectangular card is 5 centimeters long, okay, and 4 centimeters wide, as we can see here. A square side of x is cut from each corner. So this corners has been cut, and cut. Now, the card is folded to make an open box of height x. So first thing, write down an expression in terms of x for the length and width of the box. Okay, so pretty easy. We just have to use somewhat of your imagination. If you cut the 4 corners and then if you bend the corners, this will be your length of your box and this will be the width of your box. So we have to find those 2 values. Now, if this is 5, we know this is a square. This is x, x. This is also x, x, right? So what is this length? This length is the same as this. So what is this length? It will be 5 minus x, x. So 5 minus 2x. That will be the length of your box. Now what is the width of your box? Same kind of thinking. The initial width was 4 because we take out x, that will be 4 minus 2x. Okay, that is part 1. In terms of x, the length and the width of the box. The box is when these 4 sides has been folded. Okay, now part 2, we have to show that the volume of the box is given by this equation. So how do you find volume of a box? Now you can make a drawing so you can understand. Okay, so for example, the box could be looking something like this, right? And it is open on top, but the volume will be length times width times height. So volume will be this length times width and times height. Height is given to you by if you think about the shape, because when you fold this will be the height. But when you fold the box, this side will become the height. The height is x. I hope that makes sense. You have to use somewhat of your imagination. This will be the length, width, but when you fold the box up, when you fold this side, this will become the height, right? If you think about this. So this will be x as your height. Now we have to expand and show this become this. So one by one. Let's first take x in this. You will have v is equal to 5x minus 2x squared. multiply by 4 minus 2x. Now we have to expand the brackets. You will have what? 5x times the remaining will be 20x minus 10x squared, and this time this will be minus 8x squared plus 4x cubed. So let's simplify. Volume will be, so first we can write 4x cubed minus 10 minus 8, that should be minus 18 x squared, and then plus 20x. So this is shown as required right here. Okay. Now for part 3, we have which value of x found in part A3. So A3 is this one. So we have 3 values of x here that we have found, right? So which values of x that we have found cannot be the height of the box of volume 4? For example, if the value of x here, for example, if the value of v is 4 and the volume is 4, what values of x we cannot take? So basically we have to test to see which one we cannot take. For example, if the value of x was this one, we can see which is possible. Can we find the length? Let's try. If x is 0.25, so 5 minus 2 times 0.25, the length is okay. It is a positive value. Can we find the width? The width is 4 minus 2 times 0.25. It is okay as well. It is a positive value. No big deal. Now, can we use this one? 1.35. 5 minus 2 times 1.35. That is okay as well. It is a positive value, which is okay. 4 minus 2 times the value is 1.35. And as we can see, it is still okay. But now, if you look at the third value, let's try. 5 minus 2 times 2.85. It will be a negative value. So the length of a box cannot be negative. So obviously, because of that, we cannot use x equal to 2.85 cannot be used because it has a negative value. That makes sense. Now for part 4, using the graph in part 2, which is the graph we have drawn, find part 1, the greatest possible volume of the box made from this card. Okay, so let's see what is the maximum volume of the box that we can have. Now as we can see, x cannot be this value, so that's something we have to keep in mind. But let's see on the graph, what is the maximum volume we can have on the graph. Now to find the maximum volume we can have for the graph, if you look at the graph, because we are restricted by the box size, we know that we cannot take values of x more than this value, right? We have seen that x equal to 2.85 would not be possible, because if you take that value of x, our length will be negative, so that will not be possible. So we have to ignore this side past the graph. So our graph will be only between these points. Now, between those points, where is the maximum volume? So by observation, you can see the maximum volume has to be somewhat here, right? According to my graph. So for me, it shows to be about 7. This is 7 here. So this will be what? So 1 square will be, so we know that 5 square represents 2 units, small squares, which means that will be 7.2. So in my case, that should be 7.2-ish for my value of volume. So you have basically to draw your graph and the maximum point, find the volume. So for me, it's about 7.2, let's say something 7.22 for my value of volume. That will be centimeters cubed. And now we have to find the corresponding value of x. So we have to draw this line and show that. Of course, you have to use a ruler. Okay, so that you have to find this value. This is what? 0.5, 0.67, 7.5. So this is 0.75. So basically the max volume according to the graph will be 7.22 according to my graph, right? Your value may be a bit different, but you have to show your work. Now for the corresponding value of x, it will be about 0.75 centimeters. This is centimeters cube, as we have seen right here. And that will be your question number 8. Now let's move on to question number 9. The diagram shows the side of A, B, C, D. Okay, as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. Okay, now let's see what is the questions. Now we have A, B, and AE. So this is vertical and this is horizontal, 90-90. Using a scale of 2 centimeters to 1 meters, construct an accurate scale drawing of A, B, C, D, E. Okay, so since I don't have my instruments, I will not be doing this part of the question. It is pretty easy. You will just have to measure the side and draw the rest accurately. For example, using a scale of 2 centimeters to 1 meters. Okay, so as you can see, here it is 4 meters, right, for AE. So EA is 4 meters, which means we have to multiply by 2. That will be 8 centimeters on the diagram. And that will be 7 centimeters on the diagram. And this will be what value? So 4 centimeters. This will be 6 centimeters. And this will be 4. So I have gave you the values you have to find already to draw the sides of this building. Now measure and write down the angle of ABC. So we can just measure directly from here. It's going to be the same thing. ABC will be this one. So let's see what is the value of this angle. So that will be what? That will be 0 here. So we have to find until here. So it shows to be about 130. So it shows to be about 137. So according to my diagram, it shows to be about 137. So it may not be exact because my diagram is small, but you have to measure the angle, and these sides are given to you. You can draw this perfectly fine. This is a flat line, vertical lines, and then you have to use your compass to draw this and this. They will meet here and connect these two pretty easily. Okay, so anyways, that will be part A. Now for part B, the diagram shows the pentagon PQRST, as you can see here. Now we know that PQ is 7, QR is 10.5, and everything else is given to you. Now we know these two sides, we know these two angles given to you as well. Part A, explain why the shapes A, B, C, D, E, and PQRST are not geometrically similar. So explain why this and this are not similar. So let's see why they are not. We can just compare the corresponding side. For example, if they were similar, the corresponding side will be proportional to each other. So let me write this down. For example, if you take this side 14 over, so this is this side, corresponding side will be here. That was given to us by, let's take it 4 because it was 4. Should be equal the same thing if you take this side over this side. So this is equal to what? That will be 7 over 2. But what if you take this side, which is 12, over this side will be 3.5. Let's find that value. So 12 divided by 3.5 will be, so let me do 3.5 divided by 12, that should be 7 over 24, so that will be 24 over 7. So as you can see, they are not the same, so it means that their corresponding sides are not proportional to each other. Because of that, it will not be geometrically similar. Let me write this down. Because corresponding side they are not proportional to each other. That's why it will not be geometrically similar. So basically, if you take this side over the corresponding side, compare the ratio or the fraction with this side over the corresponding side, it should give you the same value if they were similar, but they are not here, as you can see. For this one, it was 7 over 2. This one was 24 over 7. They are not equal. Because of that, it will not be similar. Now, part 2, we have to find QS square equal to 221. So QS square. So how would you find this side? Let's see, what can we do? So from what I can understand, we have to use the values that we have been given to find that value. So we can draw this line here and see what happens. So if this is 7, this is what? This is 12, but this will be 12 minus 7, that will be 5. And this is 14. So as you can see, this one is a right angle triangle. We can use Pythagoras theorem to find that. So basically, we know that QS square has to be Q, let's call this point, call it X, so QX square is equal to, so plus, SX square, by using the Pythagoras theorem. Now let's replace the values. So QS square is equal to, QX will be 14 square plus 5 square. That will be 221. So 221, that will be QS square. So this is shown as required. Now part 3, we have to find the angle QRS. So QRS, so let's find this angle. So how can you find this angle? So we have to use our formulas. Let's see what values do we have. So if you know the 3 sides of this triangle, for example, let me take this out so we can understand what's happening. So we have R here. So we have to find the angle R actually. So RQS. So we have this triangle. If you take it out, that is S, that is Q, and that is R. So we want to find the angle QRS. This is 10.5, this is 7, and QS will be what? Square root of 221. So we want to use this triangle to find this value. Now, if you know all the three sides of the triangle, we can use the cosine rule to find this angle. So the formula is cosine of the angle R has to be square sum of the 2 values, which is on the 2 sides. So this formula you have to know. It is, I think, over practice you will know this by heart. So it is pretty easy. You first write down cosine of the angle equal to square sum of the square of the 2 sides, right? And then minus the square of the opposite side. Square of that will become 221 divided by 2 times the 2 sides. So I think over practice, if you will do this kind of question many times, you will just know the formula by heart. 10.5 square plus 7 square minus 221 divided by 2 times 10.5 times 7. That will be the value of cos R equal to this. Now to find the value of the angle R, have to be cosine inverse of the answer. That should be 114.8 degrees. So the value here will be what? 114.8 degrees. And finally, find the angle RQS. Now we have to find the angle RQS, so this one. So now if we know one of the angles in the triangle already, we can use the sine rule. For example, I can write, let me write this here. So if you know this one, I can write the sine of the angle that we just found was 114.8 over the opposite side, which is square root of 221, should be equal to sine of the angle that we were trying to find. Let's call this angle Q, over the opposite side, which is 7. So sine of Q will be what? sine of answer divided by root of 221 times 7. That will be 0.4273. So sine inverse of that will give you 25.3. Okay, so that will be your angle RQS. So right here, the main idea here is you have to know when to use cosine rule or when to use the sine rule. So again, cosine rule can be used when you have all the three sides of the triangle and you are trying to find the angle in between, then you will use your cosine rule. And then the sine rule can be used whenever you know one of the angles already and the opposite sides, then you can use the sine rule. Okay, so that will be question number 9. Let's move on to question number 10. So answer the whole of this question on a sheet of graph paper. We have 80 bulbs of brand A were tested to find out how long each bulb lasted. The results are summarized in the table below, as you can see right here. Here we have the time in hours, the range, right? And then here we have the number of bulbs in each range. Now part A, we have to complete the cumulative frequency table. Now just to understand how to find this, pretty easy. First value here is less than 50. And here we look at here, it is less than 50, it is 1, so that will be 1. Pretty easy. Now here we have less than 100. Now if you look up, here we have less than 50, and now here we have between 50 and 100, but if you want to find less than 100, you have to look for those two. Everything before here, so it will be 2 plus 1. That's why it's 3. Now the same logic, less than 150, it will be 150 here, so everything before that, it will be 1 plus 2 plus 6, that will be 9. So basically we have to add for each value. So one way to do this, pretty easy. So you will take 3 plus this, 9. 9 plus this, that will be this value. 34 plus 9, that should be 43. And then 43 plus 26, that will be 69. 69 plus 8, that will be 77. And plus 2, that will be 79. And plus 1, that will give you 80. And it must become 80 because we only have 80 bulbs in total. Now, so the main point here, you have to understand what are we measuring. And as you can see, we can, let's say I want to measure this value, t less than 300. How would you find this? So you go up, less than 300, it will be everything before this. It will be 8 plus this, and this, that will give you this value. So that's the understanding behind the cumulative frequency table, and that's the first step for question number 8. So now part B, we have to use a horizontal scale of 2 to represent 50 hours on the horizontal scale. Okay, that's the scaling that we need to have. And a vertical scale of 2 centimeters to represent 10 bulbs on the y-axis, basically. So the points we need to draw is pretty easy. The first point here, so we will act as if this is x and this is y. The first point will be 50, 1, right? This will be 100, 3. That will be 150, 9. That will be 200, 43. That will be 250, 69. That will be 300, 77. That will be 350, 79. And then 480. So these are the points we need to plot on the graph and join them by a smooth curve. So you will have something like this for your results. So let me show you guys. So your graph will look something like this. So as you can see, you will have a shape of this. Usually you will start like this and then go up and end up like this. So make sure that you draw your graph properly. You will have a shape like this. Now let's move on to the questions. Let's see what we have here. So here we have to use your graph to estimate the median value. Now for the median, we know it is the midpoint value, which is half of the number of bulbs. That will be 80. That will be 40th element. So let's find out where is that value. So here you have to use a graph. So go to your y-axis to find the 40th value. As you can see, it's right here. You will have to draw a line and intersect your graph to find the corresponding time value for this bulb. The 40th value. You will cut your graph here and you will have to find the corresponding value on the x-axis. So for me, my reading shows to be here. So that shows to be what? This is 175. So basically we have two, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 squares represents 5, so 1 square is 5. So 10 squares is 50, so 1 square will be 5. We can count 1, 2, 3, 3.5. So 3.5 times 5, that will be 17, plus 175, that will be 192.5. So my reading for me, it will be 192.5 hours for my reading. Now, so again, if you're confused by this, no big deal. You can just measure one by one and count the value. So my idea here is that I know that 10 square is equal to 50 hours. From this, I conclude that 1 square is 5 hours. That makes sense, right? Now we count from here, from 175 we count, we have 1, 2, 3, so that will be 15, plus 175, that will be 190, and then we have half a square, that will be 2.5, so 190 plus 2.5, that should be 192.5. So that is my reading. Your reading may be different depending on your graph. That will be the median value for this experiment. Now we have to find the 10th percentile. That will be the 10th percent times 80, that will be what? The 8th value, or the 8th element. So you go back to your y-axis, you have to find your 8th value. So here we have what value? So here we have 10, and 8 will be somewhere over here. Again, we have to draw a line and cut our graph to find the corresponding value on the time or the x-axis. Okay, so now we have this reading. So what is that reading? So let's find out. This is 125. We have 1, 2, 3 again, half. So 125 plus 17.5. That will be 142.5. So according to my graph, my 10th percentile is 17.5. So it's 142.5, not 17. 142.5 hours. 17 is just squares, but here as you can see, 125, this is 142.5 for my reading here. That will be the questions for part C. Now let's move on to part D of the questions. So we have 80 bulbs from brand B now were also tested. We have to report on the test gave us, and we have to draw the curve for brand B as well. Now we have to find the points. So the first point here is pretty easy. We have 3 bulbs that lasted 50 hours or less. So we have the first one is 50 hours and then 3 bulbs, right? That's my first point. No bulbs lasted more than 350, so it means every one was less than 350. So you will be 350, and then we will be everything, which is 80 bulbs. I apologize for the noise, it's just the police. Anyways, so now for the median time, that will be the 50th element. So that will be 250 hours, and then the 40th element. Now the upper quartile will be the third quarter, 3/4 times the number of bulbs. That will be 60. So that will be 275, and then 60. And finally, to find the interquartile range, we know that the upper quartile is 275, which means the lower quartile has to be 200. So we will have 200, and for lower quartile, it is 1/4 times the number of bulbs, that will be 20. So these are the points we need to plot on the graph, and then we can draw the graph for B. So I will try my best to connect the dots, and you can skip this part if you want to. I will just need to complete the diagram. So let's try to join the points by a smooth curve. So, okay. So of course you will be drawing with a pencil, not a pen. Okay, so in your test, make sure you have a pencil for diagrams. Okay, so this is my graph for brand B. Okay, so you will have something of a similar shape, which is always going to be slowly going up and then coming down. Similar shape. Now for part E of the question, so we have to look at what? Use a graph to estimate the number of bulbs that lasted 260 or less. So pretty easy. Go to your graph, find out where is 260 or less. So 260, this is 250, 260 will be where? 255, 260 will be right here. So we have to draw a vertical line at that value. 260. So let's see, that will be my vertical line. And we have to check where it cuts our two graphs. That's the main point. So for graph A, for bulb A, you will see it cuts the graph approximately at this value, which is 71. And for graph B, it cuts the graph at approximately this value. It seems to be at 48. Now let's check the question. So once you draw this line, the question is to estimate the number of bulbs that lasted less. So pretty easy. Brand A, you just have to read the value off. That will be 71. And for brand B, same thing, read the value off. That will be 48. So that will be my answers for A and B. Now for part F, which brand of bulb is more likely to last longer than 250? So let's check. Where is 250? We have to so let's look at the values that we have already. So we know that for brand A, for 250 the reading was 69. That is for brand A. So let me write this down, right? So for brand A, the reading was, for the value of 250, the reading was 69. Now for brand B, for 250, the reading was 40. If you look at this, right? 40. So now what does that mean? It means that the number of bulbs that last less than 250 for brand A is 69. Now again, it means that for this one, the number of bulbs that last less than 250 for brand B will be 40. Which means, from this we can conclude that the number of bulbs that last more than 250 for brand A will be what? Will be 80 minus 69, that will be 11. Now for brand B, that lasts more than 250 will be 80 minus 40, that should be 40. So as you can see, it is very clear that which brand will last longer. It is obviously we have 40 for brand B, so brand B will last longer. You can just show this work for your answer. Justify, show this, they will have your full mark. And that is your question number 10. Let's move on to question number 11. So here we are given a speed time graph. As we can see on the diagram, we have two objects, A and B, and we have the speed time graph for the first 10 seconds of their motion given to you. Okay, now object A traveled at a constant speed of 12, as you can see, and object B began from rest and accelerated at a constant rate. This is the constant rate for 5 seconds, attaining a speed of 20 meters per second. Now let's move on to part A. So we have to find the distance traveled by object B during the first 5 seconds of its motion. Now, as you guys must know by now, when we have a speed time graph, the distance traveled is the distance, is the area on the graph. So for the first 5 seconds, 0 to 5, for object B, it is the area below this part, which is area of a triangle. So that will be half times base and times height. The base is 5, the height will be 20. So times 20 for the height. So it will be 50 meters for your answer. Now for part 2, we have to find the average speed of object B for the 10 seconds. Now, how do you define average speed? It is total distance over total time taken. Now, total distance will be area under the curve for everything. It will be this part, which is 50, plus this part. This part is what it is? 5. Well, distance is 5, 10, 5. So between it will be 5 times height is 20. So that will be total distance will be 50, which is this one, right? This triangle. And then plus this one, that will be length times width. So 5 times height divided by time taken will be 10. Now simplify, that will be 150 divided by 10. That will be 15. So 15 meters per second for the average speed of B. Now for part 3, you have to find the value of t when both objects are traveling at the same speed. If you observe on the graph, they travel at the same speed at this point. So we have to find the corresponding value of t. Okay, so they travel at the same speed at the speed of 12. So we can find this, there's many ways, but we will use a method of similar triangles. You can see we have this small triangle here, which is this. This is 0 to t, that will be t, and the height is 12, as you can see. Now we have this big triangle here, which is this one, right? So these two triangles are similar because we have to know this situation when we have a small triangle inside of another triangle, as you can see here, it will be similar. Because of that, we can use this trick. This will be 5, and the height will be 20. So we can just do comparison. So basically we can say t corresponding side 5 should be equal to 12 over 20. So that should be t has to be 12 over 20 times 5. So let me find that value. That will be 3. So the time will be 3 seconds. Now part 4, we have to find the value of t when objects had traveled the same distance. Okay, so let's find when they have traveled the same distance. So again, we have to use the graph to see approximately when did that happen. Now we have to forget about this t. So when did they travel the same distance? So we can first find this distance. So what is this distance that they have traveled when the value of t was 3? So let's find out. That will be half times 3 and times 12. That will be 2, 6. That will be 18 for object B. But that was for B. But now for A, at this time, it was t times 12. That was 36. So that was a lot more than the object B. So it means that basically it will be after somewhere over here, right? The time, so we don't know where it is exactly. So let's assume the time will be here. Assume, we don't know. So let's try to find that. So first thing, what is the distance traveled by A? If the time is here, you would say the distance traveled will be, we can assume it will be, because as you can see for A, it travels a straight line. Area will be below this line, which is area of a rectangle. That will be length. Length is t times width. Width will be 12. So for A, the distance traveled for A at time t will be 12t. Now what is the distance traveled for B at time t? It will be, first you have to add this triangle, which is 50, and then plus this distance, which is t, minus 5 times the height, which is 20. So we are trying to find the value of t when the distance traveled by b is equal to this one. So now we have an equation to look at. So let me write this down. So we know that we have 12t is equal to 50 plus t minus 5 times 20. So now we have to solve for the value of t. So let's expand and simplify. You will have 12t is 50 plus 20t minus 100. Now if you simplify again, you have 12t is equal to minus 50 plus 20t. You can send this over here. You will have minus 8t equal to minus 50. So t will be what? Minus 50 divided by minus 8. That will be 6.25. So t will be 6.25 when their distance traveled are the same. Now for part B, the diagram below shows the distance time graph for B. Okay. Now for the question, we have to state the values of d1 and d2. Now, since it is the distance traveled, this axis will be the distance for object B traveled. Now, d1 is the time at 5. So, when the time was 5, the distance traveled by B, as we have seen here, it was 50, because we have found the area for time at 5 for this triangle, that was 50. So, d1 is 50. And then for d2 will be the distance traveled at time 10, which is the total distance traveled together, that was 150, as we have seen here, right? Total distance was 150. So d2 will be 150. Now part 2, what does the gradient of the straight line PQ represent? So as we must know, when we have a distance time graph, the gradient of a distance time graph is the speed of B. So you have to know, again, when you have a distance time graph, the gradient represents the speed of the object. Okay. Now for part 3, write down the gradient of the tangent at time equal to 2.5. So tangent at time equal to 2.5. So where is that? 2.5 will be somewhere over here. So we have to write down the gradient at that point. So let's see if we have found this or not. So if you go back to, because we have to write down the gradient of the tangent. So tangent will be what? So at this point, for example, it will be, tangent is a line touching the curve at this point only. So this is a tangent. So we have to find the gradient of the tangent to the curve at t equal to this one. But now, why did they tell us to write down? It should be pretty easy. So what is the logic behind the question? Because usually when you see this, you are kind of confused. How can I just find the gradient like that? So let's see, how can we compare both sides to find this? So by observation, you can see that clearly, because again, if you go back to this graph, we can assume that this is, let's say we use the same trick. The idea is we use the same trick. We use two triangles, the big one and the small one, but now the time is 2.5. And we don't know this value. We are trying to find the v. So again, we will have v over 2.5 should be equal to 20 over 5. So it should be easy, but my idea is let's go with a calculation so you're more confident in your answer. Usually I could just guess it for sure, but in this case, let me go with a calculation. So as you can see, it is 10 That's the gradient. Why is that? The more fast answer is because of when this time was 5, it was 20. Now when the time is exactly half, which is 2.5, it should be half the value of 20, which is 10. So that's the idea behind of write down the value, but as you can see, we can always use calculation to double check the answer. Okay, so that will be part 3. Now for part C, after 10 seconds, both objects slowed down at the same rate. Okay, object A came to rest after a further 9 seconds. Okay, after how many seconds from the start of its motion did object B come to rest? So the idea now is that they come to rest at the same rate. Now, basically, I hope they had some space here to draw the object A. So basically I know that the initial speed of A was 12 and the final speed for it to be at rest is given by 0, right, rest. The time taken as given, it was 9. So what is the acceleration? It is 0 minus 12 over 9. So that will be minus 4 over 3 for the deceleration. So it means that both objects came to rest at the same rate, at the same deceleration of 4 over 3. So now we have to use this value to find that. So let's do that again. Now for object B, what do we know about B? The initial speed, when I say initial speed is from this point, for now at least, it was 20. So that will be 20. The final speed will be 0 because we need it to become at rest. Now we know the acceleration is minus 4 over 3, so we want to find the time taken. Now we just have to replace in the formula. Let me find some space. So that will be minus 4 over 3 is equal to, that will be, of course, final speed minus initial speed over time taken. Now we can simplify. That will be what? Minus 20 over t, that should be minus 4 over 3. So you will have t has to be, cancel, 20 times 3 divided by 4. So t has to be 15 seconds. So it means that object B takes 15 seconds to come to rest. Now the question asked you is, how many seconds from the start of its motion did B come to rest? As you can see, B took 10 seconds to arrive at this point, and then from this point to come to rest, it took another 15 seconds. So in total, it took 25 seconds. Okay, that will be your answer for part C. And that was question number 11.